Hello, crawlspace dwellers, and welcome to the Retro Computer Crawlspace. Episode 5, The Circuit Cellar. In Retro Computer Crawlspace, Episode 1, we came across what looked like a pile of equipment. It wasn't really a pile, so much as it was the jumbled remains of a home control system from the 1990s. And before I take this into the lab for cleanup and see if I can get it working again, I thought I would go over the various pieces. Inside this compact case is the HCS2, which was a kit purchased from Cellar. You may remember Cellar from the Byte magazine articles of the same name. On top of that case is an Atari 520. It's connected to a video box which gives me an NTSC output. The Atari is used to monitor the HCS and produce a picture which is then modulated to the internal cable in the house, so that there was a channel that you could look at the status of the home control system on a television in the house. One of the devices it was interfaced with was this X10 powerhouse controller, which had all of the door and window alarms on it. On the side, it was modified. That's a VGA connector that was added so that the various lights here, the output status could be monitored. That was fed into the HCS to be monitored. A serial link was then used between the HCS and the Ataris. The Atari could then monitor what the HCS was doing. On top of the Atari, this is an old fan. It was not built for this. It was used with the original Radio Shack color computer. This fan assembly was created and used by my grandfather. The trackball, of course, was simply used because it was easier to use a trackball than a mouse in a crawl space. I pulled out the old manuals for the HCS2, give you an idea of what it looked like to actually program it. But as I say, it was a kit. And of course, we have all the assembly instructions in here as well as the circuit boards. So that's a quick look. Well, it's still just a pile of equipment covered with quite a bit of spider web before I see if I can get this all working again. Okay, well, I've brought the computer and the home control system up to the lab, and I've opened them up and made sure they weren't full of spiders, and I've connected them up to an old TV set coming through the video box to pick up NTSC. And I have not tried turning this on yet. Let's see. Okay. Whirring away. For all I know, it's... Oh! Look at that. It's not quite working. The communication isn't working. Communication with HCS2 not established. Establish. And then we got the X10 security network, and I don't know, some color diagnostics maybe. Coming around to the compact, this was rather interesting. I don't remember any of this, but see, it's got the serial port and it has the VGA port, which isn't VGA. It's got the power in, And of course, it still has a McKinsey & Company badge on it. We must have purchased this original computer from McKinsey back in the 90s, I assume. And okay, so that's the HCS2 PL Link. This is the supervisor here, and looking at the board, it's got a couple of serial interfaces. Over here is an RS, is that a 485 interface over to this other board, the link board, and the link board I think is what's doing the X10 communication. That's its power, and then so actually have a couple of power clips here running to this breadboard, and the breadboard, my guess is of course that this is some sort of TTL interface, and you see that's through this wiring jumping over to digital I/O pins on the main board. So it's running off the VGA, going through some TTL, and then going to the digital inputs. So that's how the home control system was monitoring the X10. On the back here, the power adapter, that's been cut, and it's going straight to a standard power bar. And so, of course, the power line interface, and just a big wall wart. The wall wart is going to this strip, which is powering the other boards. The X10 power line interface is then, I guess, yep, goes, that's what this PL Link is. Okay, so we'll see if we can get more of this running. But so far it looks like the software is working. The Atari 520 is working, and we'll see if we can get more of this to demonstrate. Okay, I've tracked down the missing cables, and I've hooked up everything. So now I have the serial port is connected from the home control unit to the Atari, and the VGA cable is feeding the signals from the X10 unit. I've plugged in the X10 unit, and of course it's telling me my battery is low, but it's on. So now it comes, going to power up the HCS2. So far so good. Oh, there we go. It's blinking. It's a good sign, and the link module is blinking. I should get into the manual and find out what that means. I assume that's a good sign. Okay, so with that in place, the monitor says it's off. Let's turn that monitor on. Okay, and then power up the Atari. That was the monitor. Okay. So apparently it's Friday, NK01. It's 1:15. That's very interesting. Oh, look at this. So X10, it's giving me a status of the lights, back porch, front porch, foyer, side porch, Christmas lights, Christmas tree, fish tank. And security, it says it's unarmed. Front door, back door, laundry door, sliding door, garage door, mailbox. And then what is it saying? And then it's saying something I can't read on this screen. Oh, it actually says water level, network. I don't know what it's trying to tell me. I'm going to have to see if I can get that on a better screen. I don't know what those little numbers are. But obviously, this was not programmed for the year 2021. So it's having a little trouble with that. So if I get another Atari running, maybe I can find the source code for this and find out what's going on. That would be great to bring this up to date. But the communication is working. I should get out, I'm going to have to break out some X10 units, select them for like EO1, and see what I get. All right. Okay, continuing on with my investigation of this old machine and its software application. You can see I've set up the old fan on it because it was getting warm and I could smell warm plastic. Not good. So obviously that's why that fan was on there. That fan being from the 80s should be replaced. It is not in great shape. Also tried to use the trackpad. First of all, you had to use it upside down, and then the fire button didn't seem to work. So I dug out a mouse, which I vaguely remember using, which would be this one. It's a Squick mouse. I think this was my standard everyday mouse. It's interesting because it has a switch on the back labeled AM and AT. AT is the position it was in, and it almost works with the Atari. AM, I think, probably Amiga. Anyway, using this mouse, I could go left or I could go right, but if it went left the first time, it only ever went left, and if it went right the first time, it only ever went right. So I didn't have any luck with this mouse either. So that was no good. So I dug out a genuine Atari mouse, and there's some glue here on the side. I think it had some sort of an aiming device for tracing things. Anyway, this mouse tracks perfectly, but the buttons don't register, so that was useless. As far as the X10 interface goes, as you can see on the screen, if you can make it out, it's set for the E series, E1 through 8. So I got out an old X10 controller and set it for the E series. You can see all the dates are set for 10:01, because according to the time, it thinks it's October 1st. The foyer is in a different color because it thinks the foyer is on. I don't know why. Probably because the system turned it on. But if I say 1 on, you can see the back porch changed color to say, as of such and such a time, the back porch was turned on. And then of course I can turn that back off. And that was the basic idea of this. What was a TV channel in the home was you could see what the X10 status of all the devices was and what the status of all the doors and windows were. Just a quick note on the machine itself, on this Atari. This is not one of my, original machines. I purchased this Atari at some sort of a computer show in the 90s just to be dedicated, for this application. So handling it now, I'll have to take it apart and find out why this thing overheats so badly. I did notice that the case is loose on one side because it's missing a screw. I'm sure it always was missing a screw when I bought it. I didn't pay a lot for it in whatever year in the 90s that was. And finally, following up on episode 3, I did get the Heath Kit Code Oscillator working, cleaned it up. Turned out in the end If you recall, the key didn't work, the oscillator didn't work, was a bit of a basket case. The cord from the key was bad, and I was basically trying to track down what was wrong with the oscillator, and it turned out in the end it was this switch. The light on-off switch was just not working. So to give you a demonstration, with the light in the on position, it uses the C cell to light the lamp, which you can just make out in the video. I'd have to turn the light down a bit so you can see that. But if I turn it light off, so that ends episode 5 of Retro Computer Crawl Space. Episode 5, the circuit cellar. Don't forget, please hit like and subscribe, and by all means leave me a comment. Love to hear from you. See you next time.